Hi, my name is Krista Harder, and I've been bright and sober from my food addiction for 2,000 days. I started my sobriety journey just trying to lose weight, and I did that successfully. Weight loss is a byproduct of food sobriety. I lost over 77 pounds with Bright Line Eating. You can look it up, brightlineeating.com, and find all the info you need there. I maintained a devoted and very dedicated Bright Line Eating program for over 3 years with the paid membership. But 3 months ago, I made the decision to leave the membership and do my program a different way. I wanted to come back here and tell you guys some of the things I have learned since leaving the Bright Line Eating membership. The first thing, and the most important I think that I learned, is that Bright Line Eating set me up for success. That's all I can say. I left the membership and I'm still writing my food down every night. I still have a food commitment buddy that I send my food to every night. I have a mastermind group. I have a guide. I have buddies, and I have morning and evening habit stacks, all of which were beautifully set up because I followed the Bright Line Eating plan from the beginning, fully surrendered, and stayed close to the mothership for a long time before venturing out on my own. And as a result, those things have carried with me. They have not wandered. They have not faded. They are still a part of my regular life. And that is 100% attributed to Bright Line Eating and the program that they recommend and share with the world. Second thing I've come to realize is that even though in Bright Line Eating we don't work the 12 steps for our recovery, a lot of the principles and the essence of the inner work of the 12 steps we do in the inner work in Bright Line Eating. If you are not familiar, Bright Line Eating uses a modality of therapy called internal family systems. Feel free to Google that. I'm not going to explain it all to you, but suffice to say, I have come across in different areas things where I feel like, wow, I am just way ahead of the curve here. And the reason is because I've had to do so much inner work in my Bright Line Eating food sobriety journey, and I've done that already because I follow the fabulous plan, because I do the parts work, because when I get triggered, I right away I'm like, okay, what part is that? And I'm figuring this out, taking responsibility for my actions. It's kind of incredible how much of the work in the 12 steps, from the surrender to the making amends to things like that, that really do just happen as a result of surrendering to the process of the sobriety journey through Bright Line Eating. The third thing I've learned is that the Bright Line Eating community is second to none. None. Not my church community, not my parish community, not my social worker community, not the dog community, none of it. I have to say, Bright Line Eating, the community is sober, doing their inner work, all there for the better of everyone else involved. Everyone's there in love, and there's a sense of support and just genuine selfless love toward one another that you don't find in other communities. It's just, there's nowhere else you can find that. And the fourth thing I have realized since leaving the membership, and this one's gonna be a little controversial for some people, Bright Line Eating genuinely has my best interest at heart. Now, at the time of my leaving, I would have said something along the lines of Bright Line Eating is helping people, but they are still a business. They're still trying to make money. Those are the words I would have used. Now, since leaving, I have had enough time to kind of unculture myself from the Bright Line Eating culture and look at it from the outside, look at the vlogs, looking at the emails and things like that. And what I've discovered is a lot more neutrality than I previously thought. I don't see the same level of what I would have called manipulation that I thought I was seeing. So for example, Bright Line Eating has been updating their courses. And a while ago, I would have said, well, they're just doing that so that people keep paying for the monthly membership. But now when I look from the outside, I can see exactly what Susan is doing in terms of her advocacy in trying to get food addiction recognized as a legitimate addiction in the DSM, and I can see her updating the science as I watch her weekly vlogs, and I know that what she's doing is being a scientist and keeping the content relevant and updated regularly. As annoying as that is to be like, hey, boot camp's been updated again, and we're like, oh no, I don't want to do boot camp again, but what if there's something new? You know what? Kudos to Susan and the team for working so hard to always keep Bright Line Eating relevant and scientifically accurate as far as what the research is showing, cutting edge research. All right, those first 4 were obviously very, very positive about Bright Line Eating. There are a few things I have learned that have given me some relief since leaving the membership as well. So let me tell you some of those. I do not need, this is number 5. I do not need morning accountability calls. Some of you are going to be surprised to hear that one. Here's the thing though. So many people were getting the best chunk of my willpower time on those calls. So many people, without knowing it, without even realizing they were getting that time and energy from me, so many people were getting the best of my patience, the best of my abstract reasoning skills, the best of my creativity, the best of my inspiration, and they didn't even necessarily know it or need it. And I was actually going into my days more tired than I needed to be. Since leaving Bright Line Eating, I have created a new habit stack, and it is all about my spiritual journey, and it's with a totally different app, and there's these different meditative things and reflective readings and prayers and things like that. I actually leave the end of my habit stack so filled up and rejuvenated, and it was like a night and day difference from me listening to the accountability calls. I left the accountability calls feeling tired, often irritated, having questions, needing to debrief with people before starting my day. Even if I ever return, I don't think I'm going to be doing the accountability calls, as weird as that sounds. Number 6 that I've learned is that I was running on a lot of FOMO. FOMO stands for fear of missing out. I was running on FOMO. I got an email yesterday about Susan's new webinar about weight loss drugs. And I looked at it and I said, wow, I am not going to watch that because I know what's going to be in there is a lot of this is what's good about this drug, this is what's bad about this drug, and it's going to culminate in Bright Line Eating is better than all of them and has no side effects. And I turned to my husband and said, I just saved myself 5 hours of screen time. You should be proud of me. And of course he clapped and we moved on with our day, and I will not be watching the webinars because I don't need them. Before, I totally would have watched them and spent those 5 hours, even though it's not content that I needed. To be fair, there are people who need that information, especially people who are in the weight loss world and don't know yet. And I'm so glad that Susan's doing it because that's the cutting edge stuff that needs to be out there. And I highly applaud her doing it, but it's not actually content that I need. And so being out of the culture a little bit, I've been able to kind of just realize I don't need everything. Number 7, too much of a good thing. Is it possible to have too much Bright Line Eating? Yes. And if you have too much Bright Line Eating, it will still help your program. It's yes and no, because as I'm out of it now, I'm glad, because it was taking up way too much of my life. It was taking up too much of my children's mother's time. It was taking up too much of my husband's wife's time, and I wasn't really truly moving on with my life. That being said, I have been able to very smoothly transition to moving on with the rest of my life because of every little bit of that time that I spent. So time spent in Bright Line Eating is never going to be wasted time, especially if you identify as a food addict. None of that time will be wasted. There may be a situation of needing to reprioritize at some point, but I think it's safe to just trust that whatever the volume of Bright Line Eating is that you're consuming, be at peace with that. Unless you need more. If your recovery is struggling and you're not in the community as much, get your butt in there. Number 8, this one's kind of juicy and less about Bright Line Eating and more about me. I am okay being a bit heavier. As you may know, I did 4 months of personal training with Kurt Metafit. And in that time, I gained weight and it was all muscle and it was fantastic. And then since stopping working out with Kurt, I have lost muscle and I have not lost weight. I have also been completely bright during that time. I have not even changed my food plan. And so I have gained fat, not with any plan changes or going off plan or bites, licks, and tastes or nothing like that. Totally clean. And you know what? I feel great. I really couldn't care less that my weight is up. I'm up to 130. That means that I've only lost 67 pounds with Bright Line Eating instead of the 77 I tell people, and I'm okay with that. And I want you to see that it shows. Here it is. It's there. And I don't care. Do you know why I don't care? Because I'm healthy. I am healthy and thriving, and I am not hungry at all. I have complete food neutrality. I completely forget about my food between meals. I step on that scale and I'm like, rock on, buddy. I'm feeding you all the right things. I'm moving a bunch. And you, body, you get to decide how much we weigh. You get to decide how much fat I retain, how much I let go of, how well I build muscle, how well I sleep. That's not my psyche's responsibility. That's my body's responsibility. And I love that division of labor. And it's given me this amazing scale neutrality. I did not have that when I was in the membership because my food controller was running the program. Which brings us to number 9, which is surrender. When I surrendered my Bright Line Eating membership, I ended up surrendering to my higher power. And you know what happened? My food controller died. Like, just croaked. She is gone. I literally cannot summon her if I'm in a meditative state doing internal family systems parts work. She's not there. Because here's the thing. When I surrendered my membership, I was actually genuinely scared. I surrendered my membership on a spiritual whim. I was left there trembling, not knowing if I was going to be able to stay sober. And I had to look at my higher power and say, God, I do not know what today holds, but I know that you hold today. And that was my mantra for a very long time. As I do my food commitments in the evening, one of the prayers I make every single night is, God, I surrender my addiction recovery to you. Fully surrender it. Just lay it on the table. It is God's. I have no control over it, and therefore the controller ceases to exist. That neutrality has had a snowball effect on how I work my program. For example, I will have a fruit at dinner if I'm being offered it at somebody's house. I might have a grain at dinner if I'm being offered it at someone's house. I will bind the quantity. I will have it at a mealtime, and it's not sugar and flour. Well, wouldn't you know it, that's the 4 bright lines. The food plan is actually not one of the 4 bright lines. It turns out that valuing that closeness and intimacy with family actually matters to me a little bit, and it's okay to eat differently than my food plan when I'm in a setting where the connection with the people matters more. Now, that's not to say I'm going to eat sugar and flour or I'm going to eat snacks just because I'm at a baby shower. But if someone offers me a perfectly respectable, healthy food choice that would be Bright Line Eating compliant for a meal, especially if I know I'm not going to be able to get enough veggies, I will have a grain. Bear in mind, I am not in weight loss. I am not trying to lose weight. That part of the plan is diet mentality, and maybe that's okay. Remember, no food controller here. I think diet mentality is probably okay if you're trying to lose weight. Now, sometimes we have to examine our motives for wanting to lose weight, but if you're trying to lose weight, then having a bit of a controller involved and being a little bit fussier with your food plan makes a lot of sense. So does anyone else on any other diet. But as for me in my recovery, I am not triggered. I can ask those 4 questions about things and I'm actually totally fine. And that is something my food controller would have kept me from doing at all, ever. If I had ever said, well, I'll have a grain at dinner because so-and-so offered me potatoes and there isn't enough veggies, I would have previously with my controller said, no, this is a parts work issue. You have an indulger going on here. What does the indulger want? Why is it trying to get a grain at dinner? No, you know what it is? Serotonin, which is the attachment hormone that we have with other people. And we get serotonin from eating with other people. And it turns out that even Jesus ate with other people. Turns out we were actually designed to be able to eat with other people and find that as a form of connection. Do you have any religious background rooted in ancient history, like Old Testament style history? The very first covenant that God made with people was in the form of sharing a meal together. Sacrifice this animal. Here's God's portion. Here's our portion. sharing a meal together. It is primal, it is in our DNA, and it is spiritual. And when I was in the membership, I had kind of written off completely eating the same food as other people. I had segregated my food plan to such an extent that eating was never a form of attachment or connection with people anymore. My food was just a separate entity unto itself. And so I'm actually beginning to marry the two again. All of this is a result of my food controller kicking in the bucket. Let's wrap this up. Number 10, I will probably be back again. That's number 10. I'll probably be back again because I still have nothing against the Bright Line Eating membership. It is fantastic. The way the staff on the back end handled me stepping out was very admirable. There was no, oh, please stay, oh, we wish you would stay. There was just a lot of love and respect and genuine desire for my highest good in all of it. I can't speak more highly of the Bright Line Eating team than I already do. I look forward to someday coming back to the membership. Right now I can't, because right now I do not have the time and energy to give to that. And I do have a strong enough program right now. But, and this is an important but, this is part of the I will be back again. The easiest way for me to maintain a solid recovery program is to get my butt in that community, because by default, I am entering a current that can carry me. And especially as someone with ADHD who struggles with executive functioning, being somewhere shiny and flashy with new things, with community, with dynamic things to get involved in, if I do that, that is going to change my trajectory of my recovery. Bright Line Eating membership is always in my back pocket. If I feel like I am struggling to a certain extent, I will get my butt right back in there. You better believe it. That is the top 10 things I have learned since leaving the Bright Line Eating membership.